Hello, everyone. I am Jen Reed. I am one of the advisors for MUSG, and I work closely with the finance department, the communications department, and the executive board of student government. I am talking with you today as student government has launched a new process for applying for student organization funding, and that process is through Marquee. There's a different form than there was last year as part of an overall budgeting module that Marquee has embedded in it, and we're excited to start using that this year. We think that the process will be a little bit more streamlined and easier and give you a little bit more freedom in terms of how you respond in the form itself. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to get to that form. First off, you want to log into Marquee. The way that you get to Marquee is if you go to the Office of Engagement and Inclusion, and their URL is right up here, engagement-inclusion. And then you click on organizations, and down at the bottom, there is a link to Marquee. And then this little icon will allow you to log in, and you use your Marquette credentials to do that. I have saved that option to my computer already. So it logs me in automatically. It will ask you if you want to do that, and if you are on a shared computer, you don't want to do that. But if you are on your own computer, you might want to do that to make logging in easier. That is completely up to you. So the way that you access the form is there is a link that you will be sent. And I've just pasted that link into the browser. And because I'm already logged into Marquee, I can access the form. You do have to be logged in first to access the form. The first question you'll get is what organization you are applying for funding for. You will only have access to your own organizations, the organizations that you're a member of and that you have that administrative kind of access, like your president or treasurer. And that access has to be set up through whoever your organization administrator is. If you are unsure who that is and nobody in your organization understands how to make that happen, please contact the Office of Engagement and Inclusion and get some tips for how to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and pick this Justice in Action just for illustration point. The next thing that you'll get is, some funding information that MUSG, what they can fund, what they can't fund. And this last bullet is important because in order to be eligible for funding, you will have to have attended training last spring. They happened, I think, at the end of January. And there's a list online of who attended those trainings, which organizations. If you've not, we'll have some makeup training available. So have you attended training? If you click yes, you move on. If you click no, you're going to get some information about where the training is. Right now, we just have contact information, but that will get updated to actually be a link to the online training itself. And regardless of whether or not you attended training or you didn't, you can still go ahead and fill out the form. It's just that unless you complete the training, your request will not be considered. So this next section here is a way to categorize your requests. Before you even start filling this out, I would recommend that you create a list of all the things that you want to apply for funding for, because you can put all those requests in this one form. This title is a way to categorize all those. So if this is for all your fall events, for example, or fall events and capital goods, you would want to put that in there. I'm going to illustrate an event request and a capital goods request in this form. So what I would put here, let's say that my organization is attending a conference at UW-Madison. Fall Leadership Conference at UW-Madison and Capital Goods. Again, it's a way to categorize it for your own self because you'll be able to see what you applied for, and it's a way for MUSG to categorize it as well. And then you can put a description here. You'll want to probably list all the items that you'll be asking for. Again, this is a way for both you to organize the request and for the funding committee to understand the request. So let's say I want conference registration fees. I would like some funding toward that, but also like some funding toward our lodging, and I would like funding toward gas and also the capital goods. So I'm going to put some numbers in there. Conference registration would help if I could spell. Fees, lodging, gas, expenses, capital goods. Books for a meeting. Members. The more information you can provide, the better the funding committee can understand exactly what you need and what it's for and make an informed decision about funding for you. So try to put as much detail in there as possible. You don't have to write a novel, but certainly give some context to things. Then there's a question about whether or not it is a charitable event. MUSG cannot fund fundraisers or charitable events, but there are some odd loopholes to that. So one event that could not be funded is if you're holding some sort of promotional item sale. Let's say you want to sell keychains to raise money for your organization and you would like funding to buy the keychains. MUSG cannot fund those items according to their constitution. Now, let's say you are putting on a cultural show or a fashion show and you will have a donation jar there, and donations are optional, but you want people to have the ability to donate to a particular charity that your organization is trying to raise money for. MUSG might be able to fund parts of the cultural show, like costumes or maybe catering for the event or such, but they wouldn't be able to fund something that directly goes to that charity. So if you do have a charitable event, click yes and explain the context of that and what you're actually collecting monies for, how that will work. I'm just going to go ahead and click no because what I'm asking for is not for a charitable event. Here you get a question about benefit to Marquette's campus. You want to put some detail in there about how students will benefit from your event or how the members of your organization will benefit from the capital goods or the conference, etc. So something like members will gain leadership skills at conference and share with other club members. Are given to members to reflect leadership development at meetings. You know, something like that. Notes, books. Okay. And then the next question asks you how far along you are in your planning stages, and you want to be as detailed as possible there. So event has been approved. We've made hotel reservations. Secured vehicles for travel. As much detail as you have there. And then this section here is where you actually ask for the individual items. And this is why I suggested making a list of those so that you remember to add the items each time. That's what this add button here is for. So the first item I'm going to ask for is conference registration fees. And then memo explains that out a little bit. 8 members attending. Oh, my keyboard's being glitchy. Cost is $50 per person. We are paying, we can pay okay. So again, a memo there details the amount, that's the total amount that you're asking for, not how much it's going to cost you to attend the conference, but what you would like MUSG to contribute toward that. So if 8 members are going at $25 per person, that's what, $200, right? And you, oops, sorry, my bad. Okay, and this section here, this budget section, in the old form, you were asked to upload a budget. We're not asking you to do that. Marquee has a way that you can build a budget for your own organization. And again, you should contact the Office of Engagement and Inclusion about how that works. That will be happening this year. So what you should be able to see there is your own organization's budget. And that is, if you're a treasurer or the president, you will likely have access to those. That will depend upon how your organization is set up on the back end, what access certain members were given. Because I don't have budgetary access for this Justice in Action organization, but I do for Marquette University Student Government, that's what I can see there. So I'm gonna just go ahead and click the one that I can see. This will get changed on the back end. When MUSG gets this request, they will edit it on the back end so that they can put in the amount that you're getting funded, if any, and approve it. And then they will attribute it to their student organization funding budget. And then those dollars will move from their budget into your organization's budget. That's how it's supposed to work. So we're excited to see how that happens. I don't have an example of how that happens at this particular time, but there will be some information about that. So then you have to choose what type of request it is. Is this an on-campus event? Is it an off-campus event? Is it capital goods, or are you holding a virtual event? This is an off-campus event, so I'm going to go ahead and click that one. It's going to ask you if This has been approved if you submitted in Marquee and gotten it approved by the Office of Engagement and Inclusion. If you click no, you're going to get some information about where and how you do that. There's a link there that takes you to Engagement and Inclusion's page that has that information. If you click yes, you'll get this pop up and it will show you your organization's events that you can choose from, the ones that have been approved. So I'm going to go ahead and just click a random one just for illustration. Again, this doesn't actually correspond to this event because this is just directions on how to fill out the form. Okay. And then you're going to get a question about whether or not you plan to pay the costs up front and get reimbursed, or if you'd like to work with NUSG and the Office of Engagement and Inclusion to pay the vendor directly. And if you choose this option, somebody from that office will contact you about next steps in that process. You should note that not all things can work this way. So for example, I had said, I'm going to apply for gas expenses. You can't get gas money up front and then spend it. That will have to be a reimbursement. But the Office of Engagement and Inclusion, or possibly one of the other advisors for MUSG, could purchase the tickets for your conference registration. Now that will be a little bit funky. Like if you're paying for half of them, then you're gonna have to buy maybe 4 tickets, and MUSG or OIE can have a staff person purchase the other 4 tickets on a university credit card. So again, if you choose this option, somebody will contact you and walk you through next steps for that. Okay, and then this question here is how much you plan on contributing. And we already noted $200 that you're splitting the cost, or you'd like to split the costs half and half with MUSG. This is a proof of cost. So what you'll want to upload there is something that shows the cost of the conference registration fees. Or if you've already bought them, like you're doing the reimbursement process and you have the receipt, attach the receipt there. I'm just going to go ahead and attach a random document just for illustration's sake so that you can see how that works, and it'll pop up there. All right. Then I'm going to go back and add my next item. Scroll down. Oops. Here we go. Okay, my next item is hotel. And again, put some information in that memo field about how much. So 4 rooms, oops, 4 rooms, $100 each, 1 night. And again, this is the amount that you're asking for. So let's just say $400. Again, you want to go ahead and select your organization's budget that you have access to. And it's going to ask you this, and I get that this is a little bit redundant, but the request type is tied to each individual item because you might be asking for funding for multiple events here. And so therefore, what kind of event needs to be associated with the item that you're asking for. So again, I'm just going to go ahead and click off-campus event. Yes, and then I pick which event it was, if it's been approved. And that option, 0. Again, proof of cost, if you have the hotel reservation, you should attach that, something that shows how much those rooms are. And again, I'm just going to select a random document to show you how that works. There we go. At the bottom, it's going to keep track of how much you're asking for in total. So then again, I have another item to add for this conference, and that is gas expenses. Travel by car to Madison. You can estimate what you think that'll cost you. Again, choose your budget. It's an off-campus event. Yes, it's been approved. Select the event. As I said, gas expenses have to be a reimbursement process. And you can put in what you're contributing, if any, toward that. You probably won't have anything that shows proof of cost for gas. So if you don't, you can leave that blank. If you have something that does, great, upload it. So I am done asking for items for that particular event. So I'm going to proceed on to the rest of the form. Because I've chosen that it's an off-campus event, it's going to ask me what kind, some information about that. So it's a conference, the start date, you can go ahead and pick. So the date that you're leaving, the date that you're coming back. Where this is. How many people are going? Are you requesting gas expenses? Yes. You're going to get some additional information about that. MUSG has a formula by which they give gas expenses or fund gas, which is spelled out there on the form. So regardless of the amount that you ask for, they're going to go ahead and calculate that based on how much mileage. And again, this is just straight up distance. It's about 90 miles from Milwaukee to Madison. There and back, that's 180 miles. Say we're driving 2 vehicles, leaving Milwaukee, Madison. Okay, now we're not done yet, because as you recall, I also said that I wanted to request capital goods. So I'm going to go back to that request section, click add, and it's going to pop up another item for me right here. It gets long, obviously, the more things that you ask for, but it does keep track of that all for you. And then you don't have to submit multiple requests. Let's see. So here you put in the item, notebooks for members. What are they, you know, how many do you need? Let's say we need 40 notebooks. At they're $1 a piece. Whoops. For members to take notes at meetings and reflect their Leadership development. How much are you asking for? $40. Again, pick the budget of your organization. This is a capital goods request. Capital goods can typically be purchased through OEI relatively easily. What are you contributing toward it? 0. And then you should upload a proof of cost again, like a screenshot of how much they cost, something that'll show that. I'm just going to, again, pick a random document for the sake of illustration. All right. And I am done with my requests, with my item requests. So then the very last couple of things that you do is enter in your email address. Or whoever should be contacted with regard to these requests. Also the phone number of that person, and you have to put it in this format. Oops, my bad. And then it's going to ask you to rank your requests in order of importance. Obviously, there's a limited pool of funds. MUSG can't fund everything, but when you rank them, it helps them decide which they should consider most important to you. And obviously, they would want to fund what's most important to you as opposed to what's least important. And they would have no way of knowing that unless you tell them. So, and you can, you know, divvy this up. So maybe lodging is most important. And then the registration fees. Maybe gas is not so important. But the notebooks are. Let's go ahead and fix that. And then this last question on the form just is if you want somebody to reach out to you, if you had particular questions on the form that you would like addressed or some concerns or something. So if you click yes, somebody from MUSG will then get back to you within a reasonable amount of time to figure that, to help you through whatever it is. And they're also going to have some virtual office hours. Then you want to go ahead and click submit for approval, which is at the top. We don't have any way to move that button to the bottom, unfortunately. That's just the way that the Marquee system is pre-programmed. It's going to think a little bit, and if you submitted something successfully, you'll get this little message, and then you are done. Somebody from MUSG will contact you with next steps. Thanks for listening. Please feel free to reach out to me or to MUSG if you have questions or some confusion about the form itself. Have a great day.